Welcome, everyone. Today, we're here to talk about the results of Gatepoint survey with decision makers on their multi-factor authentication strategies. These results will be helpful to IT teams, those that are evolving their authentication architecture or deciding a new way to approach authentication. My name is Purdy from Micro Focus, and with me, I have Doug Barth. Doug is the CEO of Gatepoint Research, a firm that has been surveying senior professionals and technology subjects for 18 years. He holds degrees from Amherst College and Harvard, and has worked as a pilot, a journalist, and a political activist. And with that, Doug, I'm going to hand the baton over to you.
Good deal, Kent. Let me talk about how we executed this survey. Gatepoint Research does surveys into leading IT and business executives, and we gain insights into some of the hot topics of the day. This is a campaign that we executed this summer. It started in May. We concluded it in September of this year. And we invited selected executives to take a survey that we called multi-factor authentication strategies. We use email as a method of engaging these survey participants, and we got 110 executives to take our survey. Management level executives is predominantly who we got to participate. These are executives who work at the levels of director, VP, and C-level. They came from a wide variety of industries. This is really industry neutral. We went after financial services, healthcare, wholesale, retail trade, manufacturing, business services, education, media, transportation. And 100% of the people who took our survey did so voluntarily. So let's go over what we were trying to do and what we feel we learned here. There's an increasing need for online authentication means. It means greater security concern for organizations relying on the old standard of username and password. Many organizations have turned to some level of multi-factor authentication, MFA, but the existing MFA solutions, we're not sure if they're robust enough for all the applications requiring authentication, and are the regulation and policy standards truly supported. So this survey really drilled into what operating system or applications require such strong authentication. How important is having a single policy engine? Is MFA needed to comply with regulations and policy standards? What MFA integrations are currently in place to protect data? Are there applications in use that cannot be protected by MFA? So what are some of the unique challenges that users are experiencing with MFA? And how satisfied are users with their MFA experience? And what solution features would they ultimately like to use? So let's take a look at this first slide. This is really quite significant. I'm going to explain. We asked the participants to rate on a scale of 1 to 5. How important is it to your organization to have a single policy engine for all your authentication needs? And as you can see, 83% of those surveyed, those are the top two largest bars to the right on the scale of 1 to 5, agreed that a single policy engine is highly important to managing authentication needs. Now, I have to tell you, because we do a lot of research at Gatepoint, we see a lot of graphs asking people to rate things on a scale of 1 to 5. A lot of times you get a bell curve. You get a lot of the answers that are clustered in the middle. This is really quite significant to see such a cluster of responses on one side of the scale. It's really quite remarkable how you have 83% really clustered on the rating of a 4 or a 5 on the scale. So, Kent, is this what you're seeing from your customers as well?
Actually, it really is. What makes this results of this question so noteworthy is it really has been a common pain point of a lot of our customers, where it's not just your applications and services, your core set, but when you think about authentication and strong authentication, it reaches everywhere from securing the actual physical building, right, the doors, to specialized applications. You may have the financial team require an extra step up or two-factor authentication. You might have those that work with intellectual property have that stronger level of authentication need as well, especially for remote users, right? A lot of companies, corporations have some type of remote technology, VPNs, Citrix, web-based remote technologies where either because the information is highly sensitive or perhaps even regulated, they have to be a two-factor or multi-factor authentication, or at least a strong type of authentication. And for a lot of folks, a lot of organizations, that is rarely true. They typically have to go to multiple frameworks to update their policies, templates, to update their users, right? As users are hired, they change roles in the organization, they leave. All of those changes need to be reflected in these different frameworks. And not only is that expensive for organizations because it's either manual or it takes more effort to automate that, but it's also invariably a security risk because those policies actually enforced on users become uneven because users get updated in one framework but not another. So it really is noteworthy that this is so important to organizations because it typically is not attained.
Got it. So let's move on. The next question, which I'm sure has parallels to the previous one, we asked, what are some of the challenges you have with your MFA solution? And as you can see, we also had a cluster of responses. 40% chose the answer that the number and the type of supported authentication methods are limited, and that it was hard to configure and enroll users. Kent, how does this square with what you know?
Yeah, so that top bar is really important because so often organizations, they purchase multi-factor or strong authentication solution that has just a few methods. This is either a result of business relationships that vendor may have, or just lack of technology, or I'll call it integration ability. But for one reason or another, they don't have the flexibility, the organization doesn't, to use the methods that they want to. And that matters because if you're stuck with old-fashioned tokens or some other kind of cumbersome authentication, it slows down business. It makes people either delay doing that business process or social engineer around it, right? They'll leverage some other device or machine that has been authenticated. Obviously, if organizations use this for their partners or customers, they might even actually lose or inhibit business. And so it's interesting that organizations or those that were surveyed and responded said that having a single framework is really important, but they really feel limited by the methods that are supported with what they have today because they really can't attain both together. And it also ties into this second bar, which was equally strong, right? 40% said it's hard to configure and enroll users. And in fact, typically, user enrollment, the expense incurred to get users enrolled, and if it's remote users or customers, just sometimes the complication of getting users enrolled stops the whole project. And so I'm really not surprised to see that being such a barrier as well. So both of those are really two good insights for that question.
Great. Next we asked, and this is a relatively nuts and bolts kind of question, where we asked the audience to talk about what they have currently in their IT ecosystem. So we asked what platforms, operating systems, and or applications do you have that require strong authentication? And again, we see a really strong answer to the first choice. 77% of the responders said they require strong authentication for Windows, ADFS, and Azure. And another 50% said that their cloud-based apps require that too. And then if you go all the way down to the bottom, look at all of the above. 26% chose that as an explanation of really their needs. How do you see this, Ken?
Yeah, it's pretty typical. Again, the less platforms that you have, the harder it is to attain that ultimate nirvana of having just one place to go. So it's all tied together.
And then on this next question, really looking at what is driving some of their needs here. So we asked, does your organization require multi-factor authentication to comply with regulations or security initiatives? And overwhelming number, 83%, said that indeed that was driving their security initiatives. And then kind of further, just trying to take the pulse of the audience, we asked what multi-factor authentication integrations do you need to protect your data? Most of the respondents, 83%, said VPN, virtual private network, Citrix, VMware, got high remarks, and or SAML. So these are all of the integrations that require protection strategies.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that most of those protocols or interfaces or applications are remote technologies, which probably ties pretty tightly to the previous slide, where there's probably some kind of, most regulations today requiring multi-factor authentication have to do with remote access. It's also one of the highest risk points that organizations try to control.
And here we asked, do you have any applications that you're not able to protect with MFA today? And clear majority didn't feel they fell in that category, but 12% of the audience said yes, that they've got applications that are not able to be protected with MFA today. And then another perhaps obvious outcome here, we asked, do you have privileged and or remote users who access regulated or private information? And not a surprise, 94% said yes, and virtually all the responders really have privileged or remote users who access regulated or private information on a regular basis. So we asked which users in your organization need multi-factor authentication. 100% said their employees or their contractors need it. About half of that, 56%, added partners as another audience they needed to satisfy. Consumers, half of that, 24%. So really, every employee or contractor in the respondents' organizations need MFA.
I'm going to guess that if we were to do a follow-on survey and broaden that out to strong authentication, where it's something other than username, password, it may be a touch on your thumbprint on your phone, it may be facial recognition, something like that, we might even see higher percentage for the consumer market, is a guess I have.
So then this is more of a soft question where we're asking them to rate how they feel on a scale of 1 to 5, how happy they felt their users were with their experience provided by their current MFA solution. And this is more of a traditional graph that we see a lot, particularly when you ask a satisfaction-oriented question. You get a lot of answers clustered in the middle. This is no different. But if there is some significance to this, you can see that really only 15%, and those are the ones who gave this a 5, said that their users are very happy with their current MFA solution. That leaves a lot of room for improvement. And more than a third, 39%, admitted that those were the total aggregate of people who felt there was need for improvement in their MFA solution. And then maybe drilling into that a lot, what are the features that are important to you in an authentication solution? And this resonates what we saw earlier, that it must support a wide range of applications. 80% explained the respondents that was important to them. The other is 77% said a central administration point is important. And about 50% want their vendors to be on top of the latest authentication methods as well. So it's a lot of areas of need to address this pain.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of interesting points on this survey question. First of all, half want aggressive support of new authentication methods. And I really think that speaks to the dynamic nature that the authentication market is. Right now, It's about a 21% CAGR growth, which is very fast. And that reflects all sorts of not only new devices and appliances that are being used for authentication, multi-factor and strong authentication, but also their adoption. And organizations, they want to feel they're not locked in to what they have today. They have the flexibility to buy the latest, greatest new authentication technology that makes life easier for the users, makes authentication secure for their customers. I might convey a little use case that I came across that a few months ago. I do a lot of transaction with my credit union on my phone, and until a few months ago, I was limited, and I don't want to claim that I move a lot of money around frequently, but I was limited to $1,000 on what I could move around on my phone. If I want to do something with $1,000 beyond, I had to come into the branch office, which really isn't very close to my house or where I work. Well, I got an update on my phone a few months ago where if I do a transaction or a transfer over $1,000, I hold the phone up to my face and it does a scan of my eyes. I don't know if it's a retina scan. I don't know what it's looking at, but it was another level of authentication. So I already had two. I did a third level that was really easy, right? Just putting the phone up to my face was not a problem at all, and it gave me the ability to move a larger sum of money around that really wasn't inconvenient in any way. So organizations want that flexibility. I got an update on my phone a few months ago where if I do a transaction or a transfer over $1,000, I hold the phone up to my face and it does a scan of my eyes. I don't know if it's a retina scan. I don't know what it's looking at, but it was another level of authentication. So I already had two. I did a third level that was really easy, right? Just putting the phone up to my face was not a problem at all, and it gave me the ability to move a larger sum of money around that really wasn't inconvenient in any way. So organizations want that flexibility to use the latest, greatest technology and adopt it into, as we see in the second part, into what they already have without deploying yet another framework. So all of these responses, I believe, actually work together quite well.
Yeah, thanks. Let me just quickly go over a little bit of the profile of who indeed took our survey. We sent it out to a broad range of industries and sized companies and executives within those companies. But we took a look as to, in the end, who actually took our survey. And as you can see, the two largest clusters of responders came from healthcare and financial services. I think we can all agree that those are sectors that are particularly sensitive to security issues. They're heavily regulated sectors and perhaps among the more sophisticated to really weigh in on this topic. But we also got a good representation of retail trade, manufacturing, high tech, and as you can see, a smorgasbord of other industries participated in the survey as well.
Thanks, Doug, for walking us through that survey. Really appreciate that. Before we end this webinar, I would like to spend a moment to talk about our solutions. You may have heard that Micro Focus has merged with HPE Enterprise Software this past year, which has really kicked off a lot of effort in terms of integrating our products together, providing our Micro Focus security solutions or integrating them with HPE Enterprise Software. It also has changed the dynamics of the company itself, where Micro Focus has a lot more reach inside enterprises across not only portfolios, but deeper within them as well. One of the biggest effects, go-to-market effects, has been the dramatic increase in strategic partners that Micro Focus is able to leverage in selling its solutions to its customers. If you see the need for your organization to upgrade their authentication solution, you're not alone. We're seeing digital transformation have quite an effect across the market where customers see more value in having a central point of administration, not only in overhead, but having a single set of authentication policies across your entire environment, which increases security. as well as the ability to have a framework that prevents vendor lock-in. For those who aren't aware of Micro Focus's security products, we have a portfolio of identity-based solutions. We have Identity Manager, which is a comprehensive solution for provisioning and controlling access. We have Identity Governance, which provides access governance and certification. We have Privileged Account Manager, which helps control the administration level of your administrators as well as monitor them. We have Access Manager, which delivers access to applications, services, and resources, and not only delivers them, but controls access to them as well. And of course, we have Advanced Authentication, which offers broad application and platform support, as well as many integrations for just about any method that you'll see in the industry. The key point, of course, being that because we have this portfolio, we have an integrated solution as well as a single throat to choke. Thanks for joining this webinar on multi-factor authentication strategies. You'll be getting information about other security and authentication trends out in the market, as well as what makes Micro Focus Advanced Authentication the best choice to secure access to your private information for your employees, partners, and especially customers. Meantime, if you'd like to talk to someone now, please note the phone number at the bottom right-hand corner. Bye for now.